Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. Couple stand-up dates to shout out. I'm going to be in New Jersey, in Lakewood, New Jersey, at the Blue Claw Stadium with Comedians of the Compound, October 16th. And then I'll be headlining Morris Plains, New Jersey, November 6th at Tiff's Ale House, aka the Dojo of Comedy. Quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors. We all know dating apps are terrible. They're superficial face swiping apps, and then there are the quote unquote expert matching apps. Both usually waste your time. The solution is a values based matching system. If you're conservative, things probably aren't going to work out with a super lefty. Same with religion, lifestyle, how to raise children, and other core values. Sure, somebody could change to meet you where you are, but why not find the perfect match from the start? Drom is a free new values-based dating app. You pick your deal breakers and deal makers. It's also video only for more human interactions. Go to Drom.Date/CMP in your phone's browser. Click the iOS or Google button to install and use the invite code CMP to sign up. If you're already matched up, if you already found the love of your life, good for you. Tell your friends and tell your partner to tell their friends as well. That's Drom.Date/CMP. Design and meet your perfect match. It's free to use. Yes. Okay, guys. I'm so excited to have this guy back on the podcast. He was one of my earliest guests. I can't remember which episode he was on, but it was one of the earlier ones. And I'm so excited to have him back. He is an independent rapper, author, and the host of Real Talk with Zuby podcast. The one and only Zuby.
What's up, Chrissy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. You've been traveling all around the country.
I have. I'm in LA right now, up overlooking the city in a very, very high building, and talking to Chrissy. So excited, happy.
How long has been this whole journey through the U.S.? How many weeks have you been traveling through?
I've been in the States for 7 weeks now. So
Oh, wow.
I've been to Texas, Florida, multiple cities in all of them, New York, Maryland, D.C., Hawaii, Maine, and California. And still got several more places to get to, so it's been fun.
And I saw you were tweeting while you were in Hawaii. You were like noticing all these families. It was very sweet. It was like very wholesome. You're like, I'm noticing all these young families that have like 3+ children. That sounds like it was eye-opening to see so many young families.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's not necessarily what I expected to see in Hawaii, of all places. I know when I'm in Texas and I'm in certain areas, I see it, or in some rural areas. But it was really positive. I was meeting all these people who are like my age, who have like 4 or 5 kids, and I was like, man, I'm running late here. I'm running late here. It's funny in the USA in general, but especially in certain parts of the US, people actually get married and have kids and have more of them considerably earlier than the UK and Europe in general, which is something interesting, which I was kind of noticing there. And I know that's a statistical fact, but you also kind of see it anecdotally as someone who travels all around the world and has been to hundreds of different cities. It's just interesting to see the similarities and differences between different places and to have a think about why that is.
And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Is having a family
I'm
something?
35.
35. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're like a couple years younger than me. Is having a family something that you're thinking about, or is on your...
Absolutely. It's not a question. I want to have at least 5 kids.
You want to
So,
have at least 5 kids, and
yeah,
are
yeah.
you taking... I'm sure people in the
All
chat
with
are
the same
wondering...
woman. All with the same woman.
Oh, wow. How edgy.
I'm a rapper, so you have to be clear on these things sometimes because people get it twisted.
I want 5 kids, all with the same woman. So I guess you're taking applications now?
Not formally. Maybe
Okay.
informally. I can't speak on that.
Okay. Are you born and raised in the UK?
No, born in England, raised in Saudi Arabia. Family from Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. And so how has been traveling around? Like, have you been facing a lot of, like not stress, but like how has been traveling internationally, with, I assume you're not vaccinated, you're anti the COVID, the mandates, the passport, all that. Like, how have you been getting around?
By plane. I mean, it's far easier to
plane.
travel. It's far easier to travel than people think it is. I've been to 6 countries during this whole thing. So there have been times where certain countries have gone into hard lockdowns, but people have this weird notion that, like, it's somehow, I mean, if you're in Australia or New Zealand or something, then sure, it might be basically illegal to travel outside the country. But for most places, you can travel. I mean, you can't fly directly from the UK to the USA. You can't fly from most European countries direct to the USA, and that's been in place since March 2020. A lot of people don't realize that Trump travel ban never got lifted. In fact, Biden's just been extending it. So I actually came to the USA via Turkey. I was in Istanbul for a couple of weeks, and then I flew from Istanbul to Texas with no issue. So you can travel. People have been able to travel for most of this time in most of the world. It's just that there's some additional hurdles you've got to jump through, and it's annoying. It's not as traveling is annoying at the best of times, but it's there's a couple additional steps. But it's not like you can't do it if you don't want to. I think a lot of people just have the information wrong.
Yeah, I've definitely been traveling a lot, like just all over the US, like really for the last year and a half. And I just announced and like told my followers yesterday so that I just tested positive for COVID. So I like currently have it.
Oh wow, okay.
And it's
where's your
wild.
Where's your
like,
mask? Put on a mask.
like, yeah,
I
I'm
don't feel
trying not
safe.
to.
I don't
I'm trying
feel
not
safe,
to
Chrissy.
breathe through the microphone.
I don't feel safe.
And it's crazy, Zuby. Like ever since I announced it, and I tweeted it. I tweeted out a video. But it's been crazy to see so many people in my comments. Of course, these aren't people that I know personally. They seem upset that I'm not sicker. Like I've been seeing so many comments. Actually, they seem quite angry that I'm fully functional. And like I keep saying it's not a big deal. How dare you? I know someone who died. Oh, you won't think it's a big deal till you're on a ventilator. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be on a ventilator.
You're not going on a ventilator. Yeah, people are sick. Honestly, millions of people have been infected by a mind virus. It has nothing to do with the virus that we're typically talking about. But a lot of people's brains have been broken. People have been brainwashed, like by the millions, possibly hundreds of millions of people, possibly 1 billion plus people in the world at this stage have essentially been brainwashed. And I think it's sick. I think it's sinister. I think it's really disturbing. I think it's horrible the way that people are wishing pain, death, bad things upon each other. And by the way, that's mostly one direction. It's mostly one direction. Not totally one direction, but it's not a 50-50 thing. And people have become so obsessed and possessed by this one particular virus and one particular protocol of dealing with it that they're losing their humanity. They're giving up their freedoms and demanding other people do the same. They're trying to discriminate and literally segregate people. I mean, if you told me 2 years ago that Western so-called liberal countries would be locking citizens in their own home, shooting them with rubber bullets, attacking them for all in the name of their health, and reinstituting segregation laws and policies, actually, someone like me probably would have believed it was possible, but most people wouldn't have believed it was possible. And it's incredible how quickly people have descended into outright tyranny. And some people don't like it when I say tyranny, but if you look at places like Australia, certain regions of it, certain regions of Canada, certain parts of Europe, so on, you can't tell me it's anything else. It's literally they've descended into totalitarian police states. You've got people out literally fighting the police literally attacking people and claiming that it's for their own safety. It's insane. If people still think this is just about a virus, then I don't know. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But I hope you are. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. I don't want anybody to die or suffer or be harmed or be deprived health care, whether you've taken the shot or you haven't taken the shot or you've done this. Like, I don't care. I'm pro-human. I'm team human. I have my own beliefs and my own biases like everybody, but I would never wish harm or death upon, a peaceful person. Any person, probably not, but certainly not a peaceful person. That's crazy.
Yeah, the amount of like, I guess I don't know even what to call it, virus shaming that like, well, if you happen to get the virus, like, well, if you get the virus and you're vaccinated, well, everyone's got a lot of sympathy for you. Oh, how could this have happened? But if you're a year and a half into this, you're not vaccinated and you still get the virus, like, you are shamed. You are deemed like the lowest of the low. And it's been particularly disgusting to read folks say, yeah, you shouldn't. And a lot of folks, not just here and there on the fringes, a lot of people, even celebrities, saying we shouldn't allow the unvaccinated into hospitals. Like, that is crazy. I
also hope they realize that they're also going to be considered the unvaccinated within less than a year. for the people who are pushing all this nonsense thinking that's not going to affect them. Like, these things are going to wear off. It's already happening in Israel. You're now no longer fully vaccinated unless you've had 3 shots, I believe. They're now pushing 4th shots in some places. So if you think that you've just done your 1 or 2 shots and you're done and you're now in this virtuous good person category, which is nonsense, by the way, then yeah, realize that that's gonna come back and bite you too, if you're someone who's thinking that selfishly, to use the term, because people like to throw out the word selfish now. Look, everything's just been inverted. This whole situation from top to bottom has not been that hard. It really hasn't been that hard, but people have just been stuck in their emotions, stuck in stupidity, people playing power games, profit games, and literally letting people die, suffer, be harmed unnecessarily because they want to play their little games. And that's why I'm so outspoken on it, because from the beginning I've seen straight through all the nonsense. And when I first started speaking out against, because I've been speaking out against this since March 2020. I was
right
from
out
the
the
beginning, from out the gate. I was like, the cure is going to be worse than the virus. Straight up. When I saw people, lockdown policies, totally unprecedented things, I said, look, this is coming down the pipeline. If you give these authoritarians power, they're going to trip off of it. They're not going to want to give up these emergency powers. It's not going to be 15 days to slow the spread. It's not going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Understand what you're doing. And people, at that stage, man, the pushback I got was insane. People like, man, Zuby, you're going to get people killed. You're going to be responsible for deaths. You're killing grandma, this and that, all this emotional blackmail, which people still try. But it's interesting this far into it, the amount of support I get compared to pushback has been interesting. And a lot of people still dig their heels in. But I have received messages and I have spoken to people in the real world who have been like, man, you were right. Right? Like, you were right. I was going along with all of this for even up to a year in some cases. And just in the past couple months, they've been like, dude, like, you were right. Like, it was going to go this far, because you can't deny it. It's right in front of your face. And unfortunately, sometimes people have to learn the hard way. They don't see the tyranny creeping up until they've got, boots on the ground and the military or police like out in riot gear in supposedly free countries trying to force stay-at-home orders or trying to force this or force that.
And I imagine all the videos we're seeing coming out of Australia are simply because people have just left their homes, like, or what? They're out past the hour they're allowed to go get groceries.
I mean, Chrissy, they made it illegal to protest. Think about that. Like, really think about that. Making it illegal to protest, making it illegal to leave your house, illegal to leave the country. It's not like, oh, in the U.S., I don't like the way things are going in California and New York. You know what? I'm going to move down. I'm going to move down to a freer state. Like, you're locked in the country. You can't get out. There's people who have been in lockdown now in parts of Australia for over 200 days straight. This whole year, they've had stay-at-home, like, lockdown, enforced lockdown.
It's like they want everyone to be suicidal. Like, there's no other.
Do you know the worst part, though, is the amount of people millions of people think it's fine. There's people in Australia right now who are totally fine with the way they're handling it. In New Zealand, there's people in the USA who are like, oh my gosh, like, there's too much freedom here. We need to be doing what Australia is doing. Millions of people. And that's, to me, what freaks me out. Government is going to government. I expect the government to power trip. I expect them to use authoritarian measures. I expect them to do what's best for them and not what's right for the people. I expect them to be incompetent and malicious in some cases. But when people are supporting that, when millions of people are supporting that, that's what's concerning, because that's how really, really bad stuff, all the terrible stuff that's happened all throughout history, that's what happens when the people are complicit in it, when they're complicit and or silent. So everybody who is listening, who's like, yeah, I agree with you, but I'm afraid to speak up. I'm like, dude, if you're a silenced majority, then you're useless. If you're not willing to speak, then honestly, at this stage, I'm not even trying to shame people, but if you're not willing to say or do anything because you're that scared at this stage, I'm like, look, you're essentially complicit. So not saying anything you're of no use to anybody. You may as well be, there's no use, because people are going to keep pushing. And the only way that you deal with bullies and authoritarians is by standing up to them. That's it. And if people stand up, and people have stood up in many places, right? Some people have said, look, no, that's enough. We're done. Right. And boom, there you go. All of a sudden, you've got places that are free, right? There's places in the USA where you can literally do pretty much whatever you want. It's just normal life. It's free. People are going around just handling their business, doing whatever. And then there's other places where, you want to go to a restaurant or a gym, papers, please, show your papers, have your documentation. You're just showing your face in public. People want to yell at you or whatever, all in the same country, all apparently dealing with the same threat. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
It is. What do you attribute the compliance to? Do you think it's the propaganda is the like, or is it social pressure? Is it all of it together?
All the above. Fear. Fear. Human beings are so easy to control with fear. Fear is the most powerful human emotion. Some people would debate that, but to me it's obvious that fear is the most powerful human emotion. And once you can scare people, you can control them. Every power knows this. Every power knows this. If you can instill fear in people, whether it's a genuine fear or it's a manufactured one or it's an exaggerated one, whatever it is, if you can make people afraid, then they will generally comply. There's only a small percentage of people and personality types that are willing to stand up and speak out and say, no, that's wrong, or no, I'm not doing that, it doesn't make sense, or to let people want to avoid conflict. And I understand wanting to avoid conflict, right? Nobody wants to be every single day just fighting and fighting and fighting and arguing and debate. Like that's not a fun way to live. So I'm not saying that you need to intentionally seek out conflict all the time. But if you are always if you never want to rock the boat and you always want to go with the flow and you always want to be in the majority, you're going to get overrun. You're going to get overrun every single time. You can even get overrun by a very small minority of people. 10% of people, 5% of people can dominate the other 90 or 95% simply by being louder and more aggressive if the 90% are weak. So I believe we have a pandemic of cowardice. And if people could just stand up for themselves, stand up for other people, stand up for their employees, their co-workers, just stand up for themselves, then all of this can end tomorrow. It can literally end tomorrow. I've been saying this for over a year. All of this can end tomorrow. If you want to end the mask mandates, take your masks off. Everybody take them off. It's over. It's a wrap. It's done, right? If you want to end the stay-at-home orders, everyone just go out. Just go out. Like Australia is finally getting through to people, right? But if everybody did that, it's over. It's over. Like there's 99 of you for every one person, every one enforcer. So, and this is one of the worst things that's happened here is they've made it illegal to just be normal, right? If you outlaw freedom, then only outlaws will be free, right? I'm a very peaceful, calm, law-abiding citizen, right? Prior to all of this, I'm not bothering anybody. I'm just being normal is illegal in some places. Hey, I want to go see my parents. I want to go hang with my friends. I want to throw a party. I want to go to dinner. I want to just breathe fresh air in public unimpeded, not through a face nappy. And it's illegal, right? And that's also long-term dangerous because you're almost training people to break the law. And this is the kind of thing that they used to do back in, I don't know, in the Soviet Union, right? Or in communist China, where no matter what you do, you're in breach of some law, right? Wow. So they can arrest you almost for anything because just by existing, you violated some law. Like you didn't know, on Friday, Chrissy, you're not actually allowed to wear blue. So you didn't know that? Oh, we had that hidden in somewhere in the thing, so we can come arrest you. Oh, you didn't know you can do this? Oh man, you're only allowed to gather 6 people, and you've got 7 people over there. All right. Oh, you're standing too close together. Just being normal, right? All this normal stuff, which at the beginning of last year nobody would have even considered. And look, you can expect crazy stuff to happen in some parts of the world, but the fact that this is happening in the West and millions of Westerners are embracing it because you've instilled so much fear in them and tribalized them so that they think they need to back their team and their leaders no matter what it is, then man, I feel like people are sleepwalking off a cliff. But at the same time, I am also optimistic. I am optimistic, and I'm seeing a lot of pockets of resistance. I'm seeing it growing. There's a lot of people I know who, even at the beginning of this year, they were like, man, I really think this is just about health and safety, and we just need to wear our masks and take our shots, and it'll be. I was like, no, it won't. The more you comply, the more they'll keep pushing. And now it's happened. There's people who went along with everything. They wore their masks diligently. They stuck to their bubbles. They socially distanced. They even got their vaccines, etc. And they literally still have less freedom than they did before. Right? That less freedom than they did a year ago. Like that's a real thing in many places. So for those people, yeah, you can keep staying in denial. Or you can take the short-term ego hit and you can wake up and you can go, okay, there's something else going on. Like, I don't want to be on this treadmill. I don't want to be living my life like this for eternity. I've done what I can to protect myself and to potentially protect other people. So let's get back to life. And I do think that the majority of people do want to live freely. If some people don't, then that's on them. And my only issue is that latter group trying to force their will onto the former. I'm not trying to force anything on anyone. If you want to wear a mask, up to you. You want to take any shot, any medicine, whatever, up to you. Everybody is different. People have different risk analysis. People have different health profiles, different demographics, different ages. It's up to you. You're an adult. I trust that you know how to make those decisions better than I do, right? Like I don't trust that someone else knows generally what's better for my own health than I do, let alone my family's health or whatever. So we've always, in free countries, gone by the notion that free individuals, free adults can make those decisions. And sure, I might disagree with someone's decision. I may think something is foolish, right? And that's okay, right? There's a lot of things. Think about the way people eat, the way people exercise or don't, smoking, drinking, all of this stuff, right? I think smoking is stupid. I think smoking is a bad idea, right? It's a bad idea. It's objectively bad for your health. Everybody knows that. Even smokers know that, right? Do I think that cigarettes should be banned and that we should mandate this and that and we should force it? No, right? I don't think you should give cigarettes to children. But if you're an adult, it's like, hey, that's up to you, right? If you want to, there's people who are walking around at 400 pounds, putting themselves at massive risk to everything, including COVID, by the way, especially. And their drug is food, right? They're eating too much. They're drinking too much. Every day they're consuming way too many calories. But you know what? I don't think they should be mandated to go to the gym. I'm very pro gym. I don't think they should be mandated to go on a diet or mandated to exercise or whatever, because that would be tyrannical. And I don't have that power, and nor do I want that power to force that upon other people. It's like, we can encourage, you can motivate, you can educate, but that's really the best you can do. And human beings are weird. They're not always going to do what's best for them. But as long as you're not going out directly and hurting someone intentionally or taking somebody's stuff, then I'm like, hey, man, you got to live and let live. And we can discuss, we can debate, we can criticize. Anyone is welcome to criticize what I believe or say, hey, I think you're wrong about that. Or you're doing that. Cool. That's cool. But keep those doors open, keep those channels open. Let it not just descend into shaming, let alone outright hostility. Like once you're wishing death upon people or you're hoping that they get hurt, or you want them to get sick or whatever. Yeah. You're in the wrong. Like you are no longer on you're no longer on the right side of things here. Like anytime when that happens or if somebody dies and you're celebrating, oof, you're not the good guy in the situation.
You've lost your humanity.
You've lost your humanity.
Yeah. And I really like the idea that you bring up of being kind of all in up to a point. And I think a lot of folks that get mad that maybe someone who gets COVID isn't sicker, or they get mad that they felt they had to get the vaccine, and others have been able to go this whole time without getting it and they're fine. It's almost like, well, I'm kind of all in. I bought into this whole thing, and maybe part of it is stubbornness. We all like to feel like we're right. And even there was a moment where like I tested positive. I was like, oh shit, and then I was like, a few days went by and I was like, okay, wow. And then I got angry. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, they shut the whole country down for this. Like, I feel I'm like pissed. I'm like, I feel kind of hungover. I have a headache. Like at one point I had a cough. Like really all this, I've had worse food poisoning after I got back from like Mexico. I have felt worse after eating like Cancun airport ramen noodles, which I would never recommend. Don't eat the ramen in the Cancun airport because they use their own water, which I didn't realize till I was home using 2 bathrooms. It was great. Yeah, I was so happy. Like my boyfriend and I had like 2 bathrooms, so we were like, oh great, and now we're using them. But I've had worse hangovers. I've had worse food poisoning. I've had worse like actual flus. So I'm just like, wow, all that for this. And then I see people like in my messages or comments like, how dare you? And it would be like if my mom died from brain cancer 3 years ago. It would be like if I went into everybody's messages and comments that they were, if they were a cancer survivor or anything, right? Oh, they had a cancer scare. Now they're good. Well, my mom died from cancer, so you really shouldn't say that. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, anybody can die or not die from all sorts of things. Like and the fact that like, well, now I can't talk about my actual experience like on my own platform because some people have had it worse.
It's because people do their best to be congruent with their worldview. Okay. And with this particular virus, and this has been shown because there has actually been polls, right? So it was something like, in the USA, something like 40% of Democrats believe that the hospitalization rate of COVID is over 50%, and something like 70% of Democrats believe that the hospitalization rate is over 20% or over 30%. The real hospitalization rate is estimated between 1% and 2%, by the way, across the entire population. Obviously skewing much lower if you're young, much higher if you're older and have comorbidities. And so you're essentially dealing with, I mean, I've seen this state to state traveling. People are literally dealing with essentially what are different viruses in the mind, right? So if you are going around thinking that, I mean, if you believe that the hospitalization rate of COVID was 50%, think about how you'd behave, right? And that's how millions of people are behaving. It makes sense, right? If you think that the chance, if I catch this thing, there's a 50% chance I'm going to go to hospital, and maybe a 10, 20% chance I'm going to die, then the behavior somewhat makes sense. If you think that, okay, I'm young and healthy, right? Someone in your demographic, Chrissy, someone in mine, literally, statistically, officially, the probability that we will die is well below 0.1%. Our survival rate is over 99.9% if you even get it, right? So we act accordingly. I've had COVID, you've had COVID, right? So we act accordingly, right? Do I want people to get? No, but it's like, look, it's like a flu, right? It's like, okay, if you're in that demographic, if you are 75 years old and you're overweight and you have diabetes or something, your risk profile is different. Still very far from a death sentence. You know, you still got over a 9 out of 10 chance of surviving. But yeah, sure, you should take specific precautions. And some of those precautions are taking care of your health. You can't change your age, obviously, but you can lose weight. You can eat better. You can take vitamins. You can sleep better. There's various prophylactics that you can use. There's other treatments available out there. There's the vaccines available if you want them and you feel that you need them. So everyone's risk profile is different. But because people are trying to maintain their worldview and their beliefs and they don't want to change that, it causes them to respond. So you get it and you're like, hey, I tested positive, but I'm okay. It's not that bad. I'm not that sick. That breaks their worldview. It breaks their worldview. It causes mental anguish because they've convinced themselves for over 18 months now that this disease is so dangerous and so deadly. So when someone comes out, same thing happened with Joe Rogan, right? He comes out, high profile guy who people know actually has not taken the vaccine. And he comes out, he's like, yeah, I beat it in like 4 days. And people are pissed. People are angry because it's like, yo, you've destroyed the narrative. If he'd gotten hospitalized, that would have fit the narrative. Unvaccinated Joe Rogan ends up in hospital, right? Boom, fits the narrative perfectly. See, we told you guys. We told you. You were saying it's not that bad. Look at how bad it is. So this is the problem. People are stuck in their narratives and they don't want to change them. You see the same thing with the vaccine. It's why you can't talk about adverse effects, right? There have been millions of people with adverse effects at this point, right? There have been people who have died after taking this shot. Now, am I saying that this is a regular thing that's happening with a very high rate? No, but do you know what else has a really low rate? Young, healthy people dying of COVID, let alone children. So again, it's like, look, we've got the facts, we've got the data. Sure, there's stuff we don't know, things are changing, but let's not have this one-way conversation and one-way narrative where there's no nuance at all, and it's this false binary, right? Get vaccinated or, don't, and you're hurting people. It doesn't even make sense, especially in this case when you've got these leaky vaccines. They're not really vaccines. They're more like therapeutics, right? They're symptom mitigators, right? So even if you've taken the shot, sure, you can still get COVID, you can still spread COVID, but you may have lighter symptoms potentially for a certain amount of time. Natural immunity is totally ignored. Other things you can do for your health is totally ignored. People's basic freedom of choice is routinely ignored. And all of this is madness. And all of this is what creates so-called conspiracy theorists because it doesn't add up. It's not logical. It's not scientific. It doesn't make sense. Big things are ignored. And again, people want to be mentally congruent. So it forces anyone who's a critical thinker to try to put it together, right? Think, oh, wait, there's an ulterior motive here. I think maybe this is what's going on. I think maybe that's what's going on. Whereas if they were just honest and transparent and upfront and had been from the beginning up until now, then there would be far less division, far less hostility. People wouldn't be at each other's throats. You wouldn't have all these debates and these false framings, all of that. And ultimately, I'm an outspoken guy. I have my own, opinions, and I'm not afraid to voice them. But ultimately, look, I'm just like, I just want normalcy. You know how we lived back in like 2019? Even though I thought things were weird then. Remember when people were licking ice cream and putting it back in the freezer and eating Tide Pods?
The worst thing going on.
Let's go back.
I would love to trade the last year and a half.
Yes.
I'll eat a Tide Pod. I'll eat a whole basket of them. We could go back.
Let's go back. I'll go in the shop. I'll lick the ice cream. I'll put it back in the, let's go back. Orange Man bad, Trump, Hitler, I'm back talking about Brexit in the UK. Like, let's go back to that, man. People at each other's throats, but not trying to segregate each other.
It's pretty fascinating, and I have to sometimes I wonder wow, am I becoming the thing that I hate? Like, am I sort of creating division amongst my own fans or something like that? But I just it really does seem like the one side is kind of bullying the other, and you even have talk about all in, all brainwashed. You have someone like Howard Stern basically saying we don't want you here anymore to Joe Rogan. Like, what? I was like, you're telling me that saltiness is not based on the fact that he is a podcasting giant, the new media, that he is crushing you in kind of everything. I only
hear about Howard Stern now when he's talking about Joe Rogan. Not trying to diss, but that's what it is.
Away.
Yeah, no, This is the thing, and then you've got these moronic celebrities and verified accounts on Twitter and whatever who are genuinely just pushing division, pushing hatred, encouraging people to push away their family members or their friends or all of this, and you've just got people acting like sheep, just going along with the narrative again because they're stuck in this loop where they're trying to validate their worldview. They're trying to validate their worldview because again, if there was a disease going around that was that killed. Okay, let's give the devil his due. Okay, let me think of the reality that some people are living in. Okay, there's a virus that's going around that has killed millions of people worldwide. Okay, the hospitalization rate is over 50%, and the death rate is maybe 10 to 20%. Okay, it's killed one or more people that you know or have heard of. Okay. Again, this is someone else's reality. There are numerous vaccines available which protect you and also stop you from transmitting it. This is not correct information, but this is people's belief, okay? Mm-hmm. And they're safe and they're effective. And there's a bunch of people who don't want to take it. How do you feel about those people?
I can't imagine getting angry about it. I feel like at worst I would be like, okay, I guess if you get sick, then
but keep in mind it's not just about you, because they also believe it stops you from giving it to other people. This is like the bullet. This is the silver bullet. It stops it. This is how you stop the pandemic, this deadly pandemic raging through, killing millions of people. This is how you stop it. You stop it just by taking this. Just take this shot. It stops it. You'd be like. You'd struggle to understand them, right? But you're running off.
Why won't they do it?
Exactly, but you're running off. But you're running off false information. Every single one of those things I said, pretty much, is incorrect, right? And so, but when you know that, and this is what the media has pushed. The mainstream media has pushed that exact narrative upon billions of people for over 500 days, essentially, right? For the vaccines, less than that, maybe 300 days. But this has been the message every single day from the politicians, from celebrities, from the media. So. This is what I mean when I call it a psyop, because you've now got people who are running with this narrative, and that's their reality. Just like you've had people whose reality was Trump is actually a Nazi. Trump is a white supremacist. Trump is all of these things. So if you believe that, what do you think about his supporters? What do you think about people who are actually supporting the second coming of Hitler? Of course they're bad people. Of course they're racist. Of course, then again, you're running off a false premise. You're running off bad information. But once that happens, then that becomes your worldview. And like I said before, people are always trying to confirm their worldview. So as much as the madness is frustrating and it feels like people have been hypnotized and literally brainwashed and only a few of us get it, I can also understand, I'm empathetic enough to see why that is happening. And this has just been a huge propaganda campaign. I mean, when I was in New York, even when I was in Hawaii, like the level of propaganda just on the radio, in a car, and I'm just like,
did you take any cabs while you were in New York? Like,
Yep.
did you see what they have constantly playing? It's
Yes.
like, it's nonstop. It's de Blasio with the green shirt on. Oh, we got to clean up New York. You know, we got to get, it's like, what are we going to give the crackheads, like a push broom and send them out into this? Like what? It was like La La Land. It really, it looks crazy to like, you're watching this like colorful commercial in your cab and you look outside and there's just people like mixing up, you know, like, I don't know if it's some people think it's as bad as like 70s New York, but maybe it's just different. But yes, there are more people in the streets, but it does not feel the same. I don't care if Broadway's back. Like, it's just not the same. Like, even in the brief couple of times I did stand up before the mandates came down, like the crowds in New York City, they do not feel the same. They don't feel, I guess, as diverse. It's kind of just like people who are reluctantly kind of still living there, broke college students. It does not feel the same. It's like someone sort of drained the life out of it.
I feel the same right here in LA. I haven't been out that much. I'm only on my second day here, but the city has lost a lot of life. It's lost a lot of life. The energy is weird because the freedom, the liberty is gone. There's this dark cloud over everybody, right? There's a dark cloud over people who are, because the truth is, everybody is afraid. Everybody is afraid, or concerned at least, right? I'm concerned and anxious about response, and I have been this whole time, right? That's what I'm literally talking about. I'm afraid of I'm concerned about the way people are turning on each other, their own friends, their own family. Like, I have so many stories, people I've spoken to. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about this past concept of, you know, show your papers everywhere in supposedly free liberal countries, right? What, you want to ban this? Do you know there's places where you can't go to the grocery store or get gas unless you show your papers and you show evidence you've been vaccinated? This is a real thing. Places like Slovenia, like some small countries, like maybe Lithuania as well. And like, where does this go? Where does this lead? This isn't the world I want to live in. It's not the world that I want my future children to live in. Show your papers, show your medical records to do everything. Since when do you even ask people if they're vaccinated? Right? Like, hey, it's like, that's not your business, right? You don't go around asking people for their medical information, or have you had this procedure, or have you taken this medicine, or have you like, no, that's private information. The notion that a stranger has the audacity to ask anybody, you know, if they've taken like a particular shot, or it's like, dude, that's not your business, right?
Right. The media's done such a good job of making it common and not such a big deal. Like, we all feel well, I don't, but like the idea is that like it's the most comfortable thing to ask total strangers, right? All of your coworkers, have you been vaccinated? And like, they've totally normalized that being this a level of invasive just with your neighbors and friends is the new normal.
No, it's not. Like, screw the new normal, man. We just want the old normal. And there's places that have it, right? There's, like I said, there's pockets where all of this stuff. When I was in Texas and Florida for a couple of weeks, I was just like, it was so weird to go from that to then going to like New York and Maryland and stuff, because I was just like, the discrepancy is incredible. And what people think about it, right? When I'm in DC or I was in Maryland, I'm having conversations with certain people. They're like, man, like, I've heard like Texas is like crazy. Like, people are just, and I'm there like laughing. I was just there.
You're back in 2019.
And I'm just like, this is insane. The perceptions are so far off. And yeah, it's wild. It's wild, you know. And what's crazy is that everywhere in the world, in every city, in every country, they're having the same conversation we're having, right? Everywhere. People don't. Again, I've been in the States for 7 weeks now, and so many people in the USA think that this is like somehow unique to the USA. And I'm like, dude, you don't see how global this is, right? There's places that are far worse than the USA to begin with, but you're not really seeing the big picture. A lot of people don't even know what's going on in Australia. Like, they're not even aware. They're not aware of what's happening in Europe. They don't know what's going on. They also don't know what's going on in Africa, right? People aren't asking the question, wait, how's there a whole continent of over 1 billion people where like they've largely been unaffected by this whole virus?
Yeah, how is Africa? I haven't even thought about that.
This is what I mean. People, it's like you've got a whole freaking continent, like biggest continent in the world pretty much, and you've got poor infrastructure, generally much poorer healthcare system. A lot of people rammed together in some places. And barely did lockdowns in many places. Low vaccination rates. Oh, and the whole continent officially has less deaths than like the UK. Maybe we should ask some questions here. What about China? What about where it all started? Officially, China has less than 5,000 deaths. Right? 1.4 billion people.
The
Does
country
that
was
like,
pulling people out of their door frames.
Do we not?
They were washing down whole streets. They were spraying whole streets with shit.
The place where it broke out. I mean, people don't even understand how big Wuhan is because it's not like one of the like most popular cities. I think Wuhan is like about 15 to 20 million people. Right? This is literally the epicenter of the whole thing, and the places it's amazing the places they don't talk about. You don't talk about China. You don't talk about the whole continent of Africa. Maybe once in a while, South Africa gets a mention because South Africa was the hardest hit. Even still, very mild compared to the Western countries. You don't talk about Sweden, who never did a lockdown, never had a mask mandate, or Albania, or Belarus.
Denmark is completely done.
Yeah.
They're just like...
Yeah, Denmark is done, but they did have, but like there's places Sweden never locked down. This whole time, they never locked down. They never had a mask mandate. Right? And it's like, okay, can we talk about this? Like, if I were in the media, if I were like a journalist and I'm covering this whole pandemic situation, I'm looking at the outliers. I'm like, wait. Let's talk about Africa. What is going on in Africa, or what is not going on, and why and how, right? Like, that should be such an obvious question. How was China rolling out vaccines spring last year? What was that vaccine? The vaccines didn't get to the West until what, December? So how was China rolling them out in spring? Right? You saw that pool party. They were throwing parties in Wuhan and having music festivals over a year ago. It's like,
what was in that pool? They just mixed up a big batch. Like, all right, everybody, jump in.
It's wild to me. It's so nuts. I'm like, there's just these huge elephants in the room. It's not like one of them or two of them. It's like a whole herd of elephants. And you're not supposed to ask questions. You're not supposed to talk about them. I don't know the answers to all of these things. I have theories. I have ideas. There's things I know. There's people I've spoken to. But it's like, okay, we should look into this, especially because if something is working or not working in one place, then maybe you could learn from that. Maybe there's a drug they're using in Africa that they're not using in the West. Right?
Ivermectin or something.
Right? Maybe there's what about just health? What about just demographics? Oh, okay. Far lower obesity levels, younger population. True. Of course, that's going to be a factor. There's demographic factors. But what about if you just look at the USA and, go state by state and look at the places with lockdowns and mask mandates versus the places without them? You've got all that data now. Why not go through this and be like, okay. I mean, to this day, there's no solid evidence. I've seen no conclusive evidence that mask mandates help, right? In terms of reducing the death rate. Haven't seen it. We're 19 months into this, yet to see that data. Right?
Yet pushing it so hard still. It's like the one thing I think it's like a security blanket. I think people think like, oh, this is my binky. It's like Fauci himself has contradicted himself many times.
Oh my gosh. Throughout this, but also, did you see that video of him like a couple years ago talking about how people shouldn't be paranoid and wear masks and do all this paranoid stuff.
God,
people should, take care of their nutrition, and people should exercise and get enough sleep. I was like Fauci talking like Joe Rogan. Did you see that video?
Oh God. And now he's like, the droplets, they're everywhere.
Oh my gosh. It's so wild. It's so wild. And they keep shifting the goalposts and moving everything. And it's wild to me. But honestly, I believe that demoralization, don't get demoralized. I encourage people not to get demoralized because I believe that is part of the goal. I believe the goal is to demoralize people because once people are no longer willing to fight and they don't think they can win, then they give up and you've automatically defeated them. So I think that through all this, as hard as it can be, as much as people may feel that they're losing faith in humanity or they're worried, like you can't adopt the mindset that there's nothing we can do. Right? I get that every day. People are, man, Zuby, like there's nothing we can do. I'm like, dude, stop, right? Like, if you are demoralized, they've won. That's it. It's a wrap. Like whoever evil people you think are running this thing, if you accept that, then you're right? If you don't think you can win, you've already lost. And this is not some like super crazy radical battle where we're pushing for some crazy thing. All we are pushing for is freedom and liberty and the UK being normal again, USA being normal again, people just having their basic rights, freedoms, liberties, non-discrimination that we had literally less than 2 years ago. So that's all we're advocating for, right? It's not even saying, hey, you're not allowed to. People are talking as if it's one side trying to mandate everything and it's one side trying to ban everything. It's not, right? I don't know anyone, like, very few people are out here saying that, we want to ban masks and vaccines, right? Like, that's not a position. That's not a position. There's no, I want to ban people from doing this, or I legitimately actually want to hurt people position, right? There's no pro-COVID situation here. Like, there's no people who are like, yeah, I want people to get infected and I actually want to kill grandma, right? That doesn't exist, right? But there is the pro-mandate, everything should be forced position, right? And then most people, by the way, it's important to say, most people who have taken the shots are not in favor of mandates. They don't believe it should be forced upon people. They're not pro-coercion, pro-force, pro-bullying, whatever. There's a loud minority who are, but that's not the position. It's not the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. It's people who are pro-freedom and liberty. You can be ultra pro-vax and be ultra anti-mandate, right? And that's actually a really common position, right? There's people, just like I'm ultra pro-fitness and pro-nutrition, absolutely anti it being mandated. So you can support something without wanting it to be mandated, and you can also oppose something without wanting it to be banned, right? There are people who are legitimately, again, it's a small percentage of people who are truly anti-vax, right? As in genuinely they're against vaccines. They do exist for sure, right? Yeah. But even them are not trying to ban, even true anti-vaxxers are not trying to ban vaccines. They just think that they're bad for you, whether they're right or they're wrong or they're partially right. That's another discussion. But they're still in the pro-liberty camp. They're still in the, okay, I'm against this thing, but it's up to you, right? Yeah. And then there's people who are like, I'm for this thing, but it's up to you, right? We shouldn't be pinning people down and sticking them with needles or trying to block them from living their lives because they've made this decision. Maybe one of those people thinks, okay, I think it's a foolish. Some people may think it's a foolish decision for somebody or anybody, not to take the vaccine. To me, that lacks nuance, right? I'd say, maybe if you're like 90 years old and maybe if you're 80 years old and you've never had COVID and you've got a bunch of comorbidities, I'd probably be in the camp of like, yeah, you should probably strongly consider getting this shot, right? Mm-hmm. But then also, I can hold that, I can believe that, but I can also be like, oh, you're 12 years old and you're 12 years old and you've recovered from COVID and you're in a great shape, all right? Then if you wanted, like, if someone was like trying to push the shot on you, I'm like, that is insane.
Why? Yeah,
right. That's
only
insane.
Be a negative.
Exactly. Right. And then you've got a bunch of people in the middle, right? Myself, yourself. There's literally no logical reason for us to take the shot. Had COVID, recovered, got stronger immunity. Got studies coming out now, literally saying 6 to 13 times more powerful than taking the shot. I know. I think it's 6 to 27 times. Wow. I think the Israel one said it's 27 times better protection.
That's not getting enough attention.
No, and again, this is why you can't. It's why you can't take things at face value and just be like, oh yeah, they're just trying to look out for us. It's like, dude, you got hundreds of millions of people with naturally acquired immunity now, and you want to act like they don't exist. What's going on here? Are you just trying to sell as many shots as possible? Why are you trying to give them to kids? Are you just trying to sell as many as possible? Is this really about health and safety and protection? I don't believe you. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. You can call me whatever name. I don't care. But it doesn't make sense. And again, journalists should be asking these questions.
If it was about health, we would see the cops, running after people in Australia instead of like shooting rubber bullets, throwing fruit at them. Be like, "Why go to the gym? Why are you not at the gym?" Like chasing them into a Planet Fitness.
Yeah, that's a good workout. Really or just chase them. Just chasing them. That's a workout.
Chase them around. You're out of your house. Time for a run. Whether you like it or not. You're like, and it's been 40 minutes. All right. See you guys tomorrow. What the hell?
Yeah, things would be really, really different. Things would be really different if it were just about that. But man, power corrupts. And
it sure does.
It sure does, And normally we have balances and checks which prevent people from becoming these little mini dictators. But unfortunately, in a situation like this, they can simply declare emergency powers and continue to roll them along. And it essentially turns them into dictators. I mean, at this point, the difference between a dictator and an elected official is pretty minor in the current time being. I mean, Joe Biden should not be able to just come out there and say, okay, all companies across the USA that employ more than 100 people must mandate all their employees take the shot. Joe Biden should not have that power. Nobody should have that power. I don't think he has that power, right? I think he's trying it, but I don't think he has that power. He doesn't have that power, right? Like, that's not how the USA works. He's not a dictator. You can't just force that upon 100 million plus Americans that would be affected by that. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. And people have forgotten this relationship. People have forgotten that Joe Biden is your employee. You pay a salary. Who pays Joe Biden's salary? You do, the American people, right? He's not supposed to be a dictator. He's supposed to be a representative. Even the president, he's not supposed to be, some king or ruler of everybody. And people have forgotten that. Sometimes people also forget what the role of the police is. The police are supposed to serve communities, pay their salary. The job of the police isn't just to like go around and just like beat people or shoot people or like just force their will on everybody like that. No, that's a messed up relationship. I think sometimes the people in these positions of power forget, but I think also the general population forgets. People forget that these are not your rulers. They are supposed to be representatives. And in a healthy community, there's a good balance there. There's a good balance and good relationship, and there's communication. And if there's any fear, the fear runs in both directions, right? Politicians should be more afraid of the people than the other way around, as far as I'm concerned. All right? Politicians should be afraid. American politicians should be fearful of the American citizenry, not the other way around. Or maybe it should be balanced. It shouldn't be the American people just in general are terrified of their elected officials. Like that's backwards. Maybe that's how things run in North Korea or in China or in the Soviet Union back in the day, but that's not how it should be in a free society.
It's not a one-way circuit.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I want to get to a couple of these super chats, Zuby, before I forget. From Uber Geek, random question for Zuby. What other YouTubers do you follow that people would be surprised that you enjoy? Everyone knows that's Nerdrotic for Chrissy, because I'm like low-key kind of a nerd.
What other YouTubers do I follow that people would be surprised I enjoy? I like some of the scientific stuff, like the SciShow, and I like some of those history animation things. I can't remember what they call them, where they do like World War I in like 20 minutes and stuff. Like it's all animated and it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I like those things. I like random fact channels, like things just, did you know that this happened, or just weird stuff like that. And podcast wise, I really like Stuff You Should Know, where they just talk about like things that have happened in history or things in science, just interesting things in the world that you may not have known about. So I'm kind of a geek in that sense, as in I like stuff that teaches me, but in an educational way and fills me with random fun knowledge.
I like that too. From Daniel, NOK dollars, I guess that's Norway. There are no reporting on the protests and police shooting them here in Norway. Wow.
Oh, so that's happening in Norway too, huh?
This is happening in Norway? Damn.
Interesting. And next door to Sweden as well, so that's extra interesting. So you got one Scandinavian country that's just been wide open this whole time, and then you got another one with this going on. Interesting. I'm not that familiar with what's happening in Norway, so I'd love to learn more.
Yeah. From Brian, I had COVID and had a headache for a week. Stay on top of it with Tylenol. This is about money and control.
Mm-hmm. Most people don't have COVID that badly. Over several hundred million people. I mean, I don't know, up to 1 billion people could have had COVID by now, like globally. True. And absolutely, I'm aware that there are people who have been hospitalized and had horrible symptoms and who have died and who have long-term. I'm aware of all that. But the vast majority do not. I think for 90% plus of people, it's mild to moderate. So what you're describing is the most common thing. I had COVID. It was, bad for 3 days, mild for 3 days, and I was done.
Wow, that's pretty chill. That doesn't
Yeah, that
sound
wasn't
like
pleasant, but I
no,
also knew. Do you know one reason I wasn't scared about from the beginning though as well is I knew I was going to
because
get
you're
it,
in such great shape.
but I knew I was going to get it. I was like,
Yeah.
everyone's going to get it. Like, there's no way I travel the amount I do, and I meet as many people as I do, and I hug as many people as I do just with my business. Like, there's no way I wasn't going to get it. I was like, all right, if it's
Yeah.
2020, it's coming next year. So I just accepted that really early on. I was like, all right, I'll get it. I'll deal with it, and let
Yeah.
me live
I'm
life.
the same way. I was like all over, did not stop traveling all over the country. And I was like, yeah, if I would not trade the last year and a half of I still did as much of whatever the fuck I wanted to do. I would not
Mm.
trade that for this, for whatever, however
No.
sick I am right
And,
now.
and it doesn't. Here's the wild thing, right? There's people who have done everything under the sun, and they still got it. They
Mhm.
did everything. They wore 2 masks. They stayed at home. They socially distanced. They got 2 shots, 3 shots. They
They
still got
UV
it.
their whole house. Put a UV light on
they
everything. They washed their
still they
groceries.
still got it. And then there's people who have been running around doing everything not up to the point of licking lampposts and and they're fine. They took no precaution at all, and they're fine. So again, people hate that because it corrupts the narrative, right? It just totally corrupts it.
And you just got back from doing Adam Carolla's show, and I opened for him in May in Appleton, Wisconsin. And first of all, I loved meeting him because he's one of my all-time favorite comics. But I love how he was just like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, I'm shaking hands, I'm eating with the same hands, I'm hugging. I'm not really big into soap. Like,
Yeah.
cracking me up. He's like, I'm not big into soap culture.
Oh, dude, something that doesn't also get mentioned is, just the immune system. And you build your immune system by encountering pathogens. If you protect yourself to a ridiculous level, you're weakening your own immune system. And I have a prediction that this next coming flu season could be particularly bad because people have not allowed their immune systems to do the job they're supposed to. And I particularly worry for that for children, by the way. Developing children.
Right, because they're not out getting their hands dirty,
No, they need kids need to get
running
dirty.
around.
Kids need to eat a little bit of dirt, get into fights, get into
Need
some
some
scrapes.
dirt.
Like, honestly, that's how you build your immune system. It's also why people in the West have weaker immune systems than
I
people
can't
in
wait to
developing countries.
see you, Zuby, with your 5 kids, and you're sitting them all down, like feeding them spoons of dirt. Like, just like, I gotta eat your dirt.
Hey, I'm working on it. Yeah. Let me.
Aw,
Yeah, I've got a few steps before I'm there.
aw. Okay, a couple more super chats from Paul Colton. 2019 was one of the best years of my life. Traveled to LA to watch the Colts play the Chargers, anime conventions in Houston, Phoenix, Vegas. Went to Japan for the 6th time. I want my normal back. From Ryan Cannell, fear mongering works on low information individuals. Chrissy is knocking it out of the park with guests lately. Good to see Zuby here. Ryan's good people.
Nice.
From Kent Woods, much love and respect to y'all taking a stand against performing for segregated crowds. Wish more performers had a spine like y'all. Yeah, I said I was not going to perform anywhere that mandated
same.
vax. Yeah, it feels good. It's like, yeah, you miss out on some money, but why would I subject, even if there was, and I think I mentioned this, I was on War Room the other day, and I said, like, there might be some sort of performer loophole, but why would I do that? Why would I just get myself through to perform and then subject the whole rest of the crowd?
Yeah, you can't be complicit in the system. Otherwise, the system will embed itself, and that'll just become how it is.
Definitely. From Freddie Joker, Zuby, when you get a chance, fly over to Norway. We're just talking about Norway, and put on a couple events here. My countrymen need a serious reality slap in the face regarding leftism.
I'd love to go to Norway. I haven't been there yet. I've been to Denmark and Iceland, out of the Scandinavian countries, but I haven't been to Norway.
Iceland is great. I went there in 2008, and they were just like, I remember there were like the advertisements in New York City, and just all, they were like, please come to Iceland. It would be like, are you going to some other country? Just please stop in Iceland on your way. Like, come on.
That's funny.
They had an interesting way of advertising. Okay, from Nina Infinity. Zuby, so good to see you here. Would love to get you both on my channel and chat. # Team Zuby. Love you, Chrissy. Keep speaking up. Sweet. From Russell Hall. If you're looking for something to take your mind off things later tonight, you should watch a little of the Jack Show. Okay. Oh, that was from the other day. I think we got to all of them.
Nice.
Wow, that never happens. I usually miss them. Yeah, it's been. You mentioned this before about talking about like backing their team. The idea now that you could possibly have Black Lives Matter joining the anti-vaccine passport team. It seems crazy and impossible.
This is I'm with them now. I'm with them. I'm with them on this one. If that's what they're pushing against, I'm 100% with them. 100%.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, haven't you guys been co-opted? Like now you're back on this? Like who let you guys? It's like they sneaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good to see Al Sharpton getting heckled at the border. I'm going to play a little bit of that here. Okay, here we go. This was kind of shocking.
Former U.S. ambassador to South Africa. Why are you not being racing at the border? And to his 40% right that come in companies are not racing at the border. Austin. Kids are being sedated at the U.S. border. Why are you not being a voice for the children? From Atlanta, Georgia, New Birth Baptist Church.
He must hear this.
Why are you trying to come and provoke violence? Why are you here advocating for violence? Why are you here advocating for violence? Del Rio is not a racist city. Del Rio is a loving, caring community. We don't want your racism in Texas. Get out of here.
Yeah, this is at the Texas border.
Wow. Why are they calling him racist? What have I missed?
I think just because anytime Al Sharpton shows up, he's trying to make a buck and he's trying to. Well, everyone's calling him a race hustler.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've never seen a group of people heckle him quite like this.
Interesting. The plot thickens. The plot thickens.
The plot thickens. People are unraveling. I think it is nice to see even the folks that have even gotten like the 1 jab, the 2 jab. They're like, okay, just because, I think a lot of folks felt like, okay, we need to obey on this one thing when really it's like, no, you have to submit yourself to a never ending loop of obeying.
Yes. Look, again, Chrissy, there's nothing new here. This is the thing. This is the thing that's blown my mind through the whole thing is, there's not really anything new. Disease is not new. Viruses aren't new. Infections are not new. Death certainly is not new. Vaccines are not new. All right. If you went back to 2019 and someone told you, yeah, I uninvited my sister from my wedding because she hasn't taken her flu shot. Yeah, I think that you shouldn't be allowed to go in a restaurant unless you show proof that you have taken a flu shot. You what? Right? People it would have just been insane. Doesn't matter if you're liberal, conservative, everyone would have just been like, dude, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Right? But now some of those people are now advocating for that. And again, it's because in their mind, they think that this thing is so dead. By the way, even if it were 10 times deadlier than it is, I'd still be against all these measures. I want people to, I want to actually be clear on that, right?
You want to live.
And I also think that you wouldn't need them, right? If this were a real disease in a plague level thing, there'd actually be less division in my mind because people are naturally self-preserving. All right. People don't want to, if I just go outside, say there was a situation, if I go outside, there's a 30% chance I'm going to die. I'm going to catch a disease that's going to kill me. You don't need to force me to stay indoors. Right. Order that Uber Eats. Like, let's get that Netflix going. Let's get online. Let's do podcasts. You don't need to force me to stay inside. If there's a mask that actually works and genuinely has been proven to protect me from this virus with a 30% chance of killing me, you think you need to force me to wear it?
Right.
Of course not. Of course not. You don't need to force. The force is necessary because the threat is not actually significant enough for any free-thinking person to go to all these ridiculous measures. So that's why they're trying to force it all because, you have to manufacture the fear. In a real pandemic, true deadly pandemic, they wouldn't be trying to scare people more. They'd be trying to calm people down. They wouldn't be trying to...
You'd see bodies. You'd go to Texas, you'd see people on the floor. You'd see cowboy hats blowing off.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Especially at this stage. And that's what people said was going to happen in Texas. Remember? Mm-hmm. Remember in March when they lifted it, Biden called it Neanderthal thinking. People were like, oh my gosh, like, look at I wonder what Texas is going to look like in 2 months, right? In a month, right? People were all the doomsday predictors. And this is another problem. People don't get held accountable for being ridiculously wrong. Right?
Yeah.
There's no accountability.
No,
So
there's no,
it should have been, wait,
We
hang
feel
on. You
bad.
said this was going to happen and it didn't. And so we're going to hold you accountable. Let's talk, right? But people don't do that. They just throw out all this outrageous nonsense. If they're wrong, they just, I act like they never said it. You had people last year, some of them verified blue check marks on Twitter, some of them celebrities, some of them the current president and sitting vice president of the USA who said, if the vaccine comes out under the Trump administration and Trump says we should take it, I'm not going to take it. Kamala Harris said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Who knows what's in it? Oh, it's not tested. Saying
Literally,
all
go
the
back
things.
and see who was so-called vaccine hesitant or by their own definition, anti-vax, about a year ago. It was people on the left. It was these blue check mark liberals, whatever, who were like, Trump is trying to kill people. This is a death shot. I'm absolutely not taking this, whatever. Now those same people are saying, if you don't take this, I want you to die, or I want you to be harmed, or I want you to be discriminated. It's hard for me to even fathom that level of buffoonery. Like it's and then those tweets are still you can see them. Some people have compiled
them. They're
them.
all still there.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. One more super chat from Nina Infinity. Zuby, come to Cancun. Cancun is amazing, but as a general rule, I only eat tacos. No airport ramen. I'll show you all the good spots. Sounds like someone's trying out for wife. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
And from Daniel, I meant they don't report on Australia. Oh, okay. They don't, in Norway, they don't report on what's going on in Australia.
Okay,
like in Norway where he lives, they don't report on what's happening in Australia.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Kind of like everywhere else. Interesting, guys.
Weird
well,
times, eh?
Like, what do you? And I'm sure you get this question so often. Like, what do you say to people who are like, I can't be let into my work building unless I'm vaccinated? Like, to the people that are like really afraid of losing their jobs and they
Man up, stand your ground. People have to be willing to sacrifice something. People need to understand that people are always like, look, I've got a job and kids. Most people have a job. Everyone has a job. Most people have kids, right? Like everyone has something to lose. And what people have to lose is different, right? I get people who are like, oh man, Zuby, but you're financially well off and you can't be canceled because you're self-employed and you don't have kids. I'm like, dude, if I had kids, I'd be going harder. If I had kids, I'd be going harder because I don't want them to inherit this mess. And so, look, no, your situation is not unique. It's not special. Billions of people are in that same situation. And you have to be able to potentially risk or sacrifice something if you don't want things to keep getting worse, right? People need to stop being cowards. That's what I say. And if you can't do it on your own, find like-minded people and join together. I've seen places where there are even police departments where they've mandated the shot. A group of police officers get together, take a stand, and they say, no, we're not against the shot itself, but this shouldn't be forced upon people. And the next day, the department reverses the decision. That's been happening all over different places. That happens. That can happen in the healthcare industry. It can happen in corporations, etc. So people need to take a stand. If you run a restaurant, you run a business, whatever, and you don't want to be doing paper pleas in your business, get together with other businesses. Maybe you need to organize. Right? I understand taking a stand by yourself can be difficult and perhaps even ineffective. But if people take a stand together, find like-minded people and take that stand, then they'll do better. And hey, also, depending on where you are, sometimes you just got to move. Right? There are places that are not as insane as other places. If it's really turning into a hellhole where you are and you need to move, then move. I was telling these people a year ago, right? Like, go, like move. Don't feel you have to just stay stuck somewhere. I understand that's easier for some people than others, but you can do it. Everybody has the capability to do it. Some people are, I can't move. I have a house. Dude, I know people who've sold their houses and moved, right? Like you can do it. It's just how much you prioritize things. It's like people who say they don't have time to go to the gym. Of course you have time. We all have time, right? You're spending 2 hours a day watching Netflix. You got time. It's just your priorities. So it's up to you. I can't tell you what your priorities and value order should be. But if you feel that strongly about it, then you're going to have to take a little sacrifice short term, but you'll be rewarded in the long term for that.
Definitely. And it looks like, are you thinking about maybe moving to Texas or Florida or somewhere?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my U.S. visa. But we'll see in terms of moving. Right now, I'm just location independent. I'm a nomad. I'll go wherever I need to be. The world's in flux, so it's hard for me to, it's hard for anyone to make plans right now and just say, okay, 100%, this is where I want to be. But yeah, fortunately, thank God, I've put myself in a position where I'm not tied to any city or country. So I'm keeping my eyes open and my ears open, and I'll see. I'm just trying to expand my options and flexibility as much as possible, especially in this time.
Yeah, it's good. You're checking it all out.
Exactly.
Zuby, thank you so much for coming on the pod. You're such a delight and a joy, and all the best things I hope happen for you. Check out Real Talk with Zuby. Where can they listen to your podcast?
Sure. Real Talk is available on all the typical platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just search Real Talk with Zuby. And you can also check out all my music on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen. Just search my name, Zuby, Z-U-B-Y, and you will find me.
Awesome. Zuby, thanks for coming on. You're the best. Thanks, chat. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for your super chats. Until next time. Bye.